Welcome to Seeing Scarlet. It is Monday, and today we have a little realignment fun for you. But listen, we're not going to sit here and talk about who's joined the conference, who maybe is joining the conference, why they joined. Listen, we're not us. We're fully unsubscribed from all that drama. But we are going to talk about how it actually affects the teams on the playing surfaces. And specifically, someone asked us to talk about the women's sports because no one's talking about that in the techverse. And someone on Twitter said, hey, how does this affect women's basketball, soccer, softball? So we're going to spend a lot of time on that, but of course we'll dive into the football and the basketballs of the world towards the end on the men's side as well. And let's just say that there's some good teams coming in.
Yeah.
I know football, I get it. That's the reason these choices were made. We all know moneymaker, and that'll be fun. There'll be some good football moments as well, but on the women's side, there's some spicy history.
So I'm off social media. Shelby, can you?
Good for you.
Thank you. And it sounds like it's a good choice given the recent events.
I find it fun, but I'm a little crazy. So the normal person is probably safer.
Salute to you, but give us give us a rundown of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I kind of don't get into it too much because it's been going on for 2 years, and I mean, this is so much drama. But I did pay attention to it a little bit more in the last week because it seemed like, oh, this is actually about to happen, especially after Colorado joined a week ago. You knew once they actually pinned the paper, they're announcing it. It's like, okay, it's starting. The Pac-12, unfortunately, is about to fall apart, and we're probably going to get a few more of them. So you knew, you pay attention. So there's just back and forth, and no one really knows what happened. There's these rumors that the Pac-12 tried to save it at the last minute. It sounds like Arizona actually wanted it in, and they've wanted it in the Big 12 for a while. So yay, Arizona, we're fans of them. And then they basically got approved, and then the next morning the Pac-12 tried to save it all one last time, and Arizona's like, now we're good. And so then Arizona State and Utah join those two because that's been the rumor for 2 years. Is that the corner schools, which those are the four corner schools,
they
are going to join the Big 12 because geographically it makes the most sense.
It makes sense. Mm-hmm.
And some of them, I mean, Colorado used to be in the Big 12, Southwest, all that stuff. So it makes the most travel sense. And they shot it down. All the media people have been saying the Big 12 is going to die. And that's why I feel bad for the athletes. I do not feel bad for the schools. I do not feel bad for all these media that are pretending like this is the worst thing that could have ever happened to college sports for the Pac-12 to die off. You didn't give two shits when the Big 12 was about to die off. Didn't see any of this crying in the corner about the Big 12. It was just like, well, that's life. Sucks to suck.
Yeah.
For some reason, they just didn't care. I'm sure it's because there's all this history. A lot of these media people probably came from the Pac-12. There's some really prestigious journalism schools there. So I didn't dig into it, but I'm guessing these anchors are went to Stanford, or they went to USC Media School, or journalism school. I'm sure that's what's happening.
Should've gone on deck.
They didn't go to Big 12 schools, and so they don't feel an emotional attachment. So I don't really feel bad for them. I do feel bad for the athletes.
For sure.
And that is a thing I tweeted yesterday. I really hope the NCAA does right by them. I get that there's a free transfer already in place.
Oh, shit.
Some of them have already used that, though, without the knowledge. Imagine if you transferred into the Pac-12 as a freshman and you have 3 years left.
And then you can't transfer again?
By the book, you could, but you have to sit out a year. You can always transfer as much as you want. By the book, what if you're at a Oregon State or Stanford? I assume will just go independent, but some of these other smaller schools, there's 4 of them left. What if you're at one of those and you're about to drop down to the Mountain West?
Mm-hmm.
That's not, you worked your
That's not what
entire
you signed up for.
life to be a Power 5 level athlete, and you're at these schools that do that. And then I feel really bad for the Olympic sport ones because the Pac-12, they were kind of the stalwart for the Olympic sports. And there's even, we've been big on the World Cup. There's even is this going to mess up the U.S. women's national team development? Because
Stanford
UCLA,
alone.
Stanford, I mean, UCLA is going to the Big Ten, but they used to all be right there and they played each other. It was easy to be evaluating them. And now, Stanford doesn't have a home right now. Ooh. And they produce a ton of national level talent. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be figured out, but I do hope they do right by the athletes. And if they want to leave, they should be allowed to leave with a waiver, which is already in place, but that waiver better qualify. What is a bigger hardship than you're going to now have to play on the East Coast 4 times a year, or hey, you're gonna have to play the Mountain West, but no one, it's not gonna help you get better. Like U.S. national teams development, right?
Yep.
Them playing San Diego State, or I don't know, they might be good at soccer, but pick a random team, Boise
University of San Diego. Yeah,
I'm thinking Boise State's not good at soccer. No offense. It's not helping them get better. So they're going to want to transfer to another team. They might even be told to transfer to another team by the U.S. women's national team to play better talent. And so they should be allowed to do that. So that's my biggest claw in this. I get it's about football. I understand why the Big 12 had to do what it had to do. I understand why these 4 corner schools had to do what they had to do to keep their universities open. That's a problem on their end. But it's a problem across the country that football supplies that much money to the university to stay afloat. Damn. But it's the truth of the matter. And so if they don't stay in these larger grossing media contracts, programs are going to get cut. So in a way they did right by the athletes, because some of these, which would have been wrong, but some of these lower grossing sports, probably the Olympic sports, would have gotten cut. But now they can survive, but they're going to have to survive by traveling bucos.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading some about traveling to a West Coast team, and I don't remember what school it was. It could be plenty of them, but it was like we could go to France faster than we could to
there's
Oregon or whatever.
Yeah, that was this Oregon softball player put something out, and I felt bad for her because the stuff in the comments from her own school, I'd be.
Oh, are students talking about this? Or like athletes are tweeting about it?
There was an Oregon softball player that said,
What'd she say?
I stayed at Oregon because won the Pac-12, which we'll get into. The Pac-12 is very historic in softball. Like I wanted to play in this historic softball conference, and I also wanted to play regionally so my family could go to even most of my away games. And now I have to travel to the East Coast, to Midwest, all these games, a lot, because there's a lot of travel in softball. You play a lot of games a year. So I understood it. And she was very reasonable, and she's like, I understand why the schools had to do it, but like it hurts. This is not what I signed up for. And her own fans in the comments were going at her. Like, no what way. Do you think? Like football supports your whole program wouldn't be there without football. All this
enter
stuff.
The misogyny and
luckily people then started taking out for her. But it's just sad to see that there's ignorance out there. So if you've stuck around with this long, then you probably care about women's sports. The ones that don't, when we didn't immediately start talking about football, probably left already, and that's fine. But if you are still here, be cognizant of what you're saying in these discussions, because there's more than football at play. Again, I love football. I understand. Listen, I worked in sports. I understand all the financial implications. I understand why this happens, and it's good for the Big 12. I'm happy that our commissioner did this because it would have been unfortunate if we were on the outside looking in. Like, it saves a lot of our programs and a lot of our athletes. It helped the athletes in the Big 12. But where it helps someone, it always hurts someone too. So we can laugh at the administrations because they did sit on their hands and made fun of the Big 12 and thought we were going to die. Just remember there's athletes that are also there that had nothing to do with it. They had nothing to do with this. It's not their fault. They made choices. That's why I hope the NCAA just says, hey, if your school moved conferences or was relegated down, basically, to go like European soccer style, you can transfer if you'd like to for free.
So, like, the spark notes of what I'm getting from all of this is, like, more money for teams going into, like, a different conference, like the Big 12, to get, like, TV money for football. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So the media deals, because it's not just for football. So the media deals, just the large portion of what they're paying for is football, but all of the sports will be on ESPN if you sign a deal with ESPN. And then all the sports share that. I think it's pretty equal throughout all the sports. I'm not sure what the distribution is. So everyone's getting money from it. It's not just football, but football is the reason most of the money's coming. Or basketball, and the Big 12 plays a role into it as well. But that's where the eyeballs are. So that's what ESPN's paying for. They're not paying for soccer or men's track or tennis. So that's not what they're paying to have on their outlets. Now, they'll put them on ESPN Plus because that's part of the deal. Right. But that's not what they're paying for. You know what I mean? And so that's what this is all about. It's all about money. Keeping up with the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10. Those are the two huge money makers. We're below
SEC
them, but we're like the top three now. So it's good. The Big 12's in a good spot. And it's all about money. But how does it actually affect the sports?
Yeah, like
there's some good teams coming in, and especially on the women's side. The men's side, everyone talks about football, and Utah will probably be the best, most competitive team that has been recently. Colorado's been down. They have Deion Sanders. That'll be interesting to watch.
That'll be an entertainment for sure.
Like it'll be fun to watch them. Arizona's been, who knows? Arizona State is a little bit full of themselves, but they haven't done much. They're a little bit annoying online right now. Meh is where I am with Arizona State. But we'll see. Basketball, again, you have the stalwart in Arizona. They'll come in and be that. Kansas and Arizona are going to play at least once a year, every year now in the Big-12 starting in 24. That only further helps solidify us as the best men's basketball conference in the country easily. That's cool. The rest of the teams, they're okay. Utah fans even admitting online, like, do we have to play basketball in the Big 12? Like, they know it's going to be a struggle. They're kind of like the UCF fans. UCF fans are the same way. They're like, we're excited for football, but can we just not? Do we have to play basketball in the Big 12? Because they know it's so competitive. It'll take a while for them to step up. Arizona State has, every once in a while is good. They made the tournament last year. We stole 2 of their best players. Like, we have 2, which they might, their age, I don't think they'll be here. Well, they might be here next year, because this will happen next year. We'll see. Warren Washington and Cambridge, Devin Cambridge, I believe is his name, came over from Arizona State as transfers, and they were like their 2 best players. So even if they were decent last year, we took their 2 best players. So I don't know. Yeah, men's basketball, football, that's kind of the state of things that you've probably heard talked about a lot. But it was requested, which we were going to do it anyway, because Avi, that's what we do here. But how does this actually affect women's sports that people are interested to know? So let's chat about it for sure. There's so many like highlights of different programs that work. We got some work to do. Yeah, I think it's good. It's good,
but
for
it's
recruiting.
Good work. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's start off with the big one that you may not think of instantly, but when you hear it, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, them, because it's been a few years since they were like dominant. But I know when I was coming up, Arizona softball, Jenny Finch. Back in the day, I used to be a pitcher.
Jenny Finch. Let's
coming
go.
Up, I'm going to all the pro camps as pitching and pitching in the backyard every day. Jenny Finch was like her and Kat Osterman, but we won't talk about that because UT. But those were like the pitchers back then. And
I know,
like the pitcher ever. That Arizona Wildcats, like that, they are prestigious in men's basketball, and they're prestigious in softball. Like, I'm talking prestigious. We're losing OU, which was like, oh no, are you losing OU to carry that prestige banner for softball? And they are the current Arizona, if you will. Although Arizona's still good. They just made the World Series as recently as 19, 21, and 22. Like, they're still hanging around. But OU's just winning the championships right now. But Arizona is it. Like, I can't even count them. Like, they made the World Series, like, every year in the 90s. Like, I'm not, no exaggeration. Every year.
Prime for softball.
From 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. Oh, we missed 2004. Back at it. 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. And then there was a rough stretch where OU started gaining momentum. There was a decade of time there. Between 2010, I think their coach, the historic coach, retired there. That's the winningest coach in softball history. And they kind of had to find footing again. But they're back recently, and they've made it in 2019, 21, and 22.
Wow.
So that's what's coming on the softball side. In some historic USA Olympic, back when the softball was in the Olympics. Is it back in the Olympics now? Nobody knows.
I know,
can't keep track. But
it's
they were that Jenny. All those people came from the Jenny Finch, all of them. So
that era of softball was so much fun.
That was like all of us growing up. They're listening to this probably.
Early 2000s. Yeah.
They were the OU then, and they're getting back to that. And I think they'll step right into that role because they'll come in as OU's leaving. They'll never share the conference.
I see. Okay.
And
damn,
so
that'd be cool.
We won't lose that prestige because the Big 12's got that RPI that helps us as far as getting into the postseason, which is where we're trying to get back to. We're not going to lose that strength of schedule really because you're losing OU, you're still going to have Oklahoma State, and you're still going to have Arizona coming in, and also their little friends in the same state. I don't know what's going on in Oklahoma and Arizona, but anyway, Arizona State is really good at softball too. They're not quite as historic. But they hit. Oh, by the way, did I mention that Arizona has won like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 national championships in softball?
8.
Let me skirt over that. Well, their friends over at Arizona State have won a couple as well.
No way. I love that we were talking about Oklahoma as like the state of softball, but Arizona
currently, yeah, Arizona was like it
looks
first,
really good.
Like moved over.
I've just never
Oklahoma.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. I'm Big 12 only, so this is interesting to learn about.
And Arizona has made the World Series, I don't know, 10 times it looks like. They also kind of in that era, same kind of time frame where Arizona State has made it. They made it a bunch in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. 2013, and then there was a little bit of a break, and they made it as recently as 2018. So they're still trying to find their footing to what they were great. Yeah. But that 2018 is 5 years ago, but still they're right there. They made the Supers in 22, which if you're not familiar with that, same as baseball, it's the step right before the World Series. They just lost. Mm-hmm. So they were like one game away from making the World Series again in 22. And this past year was a little bit of a down year. They didn't even make the tournament, but I think they've made it 16 times to the NCAA tournament. They're probably more than that, actually. Sorry. They've made it a ton.
Yeah,
and they're bringing that prestige. So Arizona and Arizona State are going to be fun in softball. And I think this might even help us with recruiting because some of these other Pac-12 schools that are getting left behind, we'll see where they end up. Yeah. Maybe they still want to play the Arizonas of the world. They want to play the Arizona States of the world. Well, to do that, you got to come over. You got to
come over here.
Now.
Yeah.
So if you can't get on their schools and you want to, like, if Arizona doesn't recruit you and you want to play against them because you're pissed off, you're from Arizona, you used to go to like, I don't know, and one of those other schools, UCLA or maybe Utah or Colorado. Well, Colorado doesn't have a team, but maybe Utah.
UCLA, yeah. Yeah,
well, I'm saying the ones that are joining, but yeah, you probably go to one of those other schools if you're almost good enough to be at Arizona. Now, I'm sure Oklahoma State's going to get first pick of the teams left in the Big 12. But why not come on over to Lubbock? We're not that far. You know, your parents can still travel and see you. These 4 corner schools are all going to be very much in our regional. We're going to play these teams. It affects Texas Tech more than most teams in the Big 12 because as far as pod goes, this is going to be our pod. So get comfortable with these schools in all sports. Yeah. We're going to play them maybe twice a year in a lot of sports because that's just where they are. So softball's in good hands. Utah, like I said, Utah's made it 5 times, the World Series. They've made it to the NCAA tournament 16 times, had All-Americans in 2 of the last 3 seasons. And we had a freshman All-American, but this is like All-American of any age bracket, if you will. So they're still pumping out good players. It's just that Pac-12 talent. A lot of talent comes from the West Coast. And so I think being able to tap into that recruiting market helps us now. Because even OU's roster, you go look at it, there's a lot of California girls on that roster. So it's just a factory for softball just because it's sunny all year round. They can play all the time.
It's also, soccer too, like a lot of...
These 2 sports are huge.
Makes sense though. Get to play it all year round, play it on a beach, like maybe not softball.
You can grow nice grass. You don't got to worry about the turf out there. You don't need turf because it's not raining. Like it's not too hot. It's not
beautiful.
Raining. So softball will be fun, and I'm sure Snyder's excited about it because that's just extra competition you get to play. That's fun.
Yeah, and to, like you said too, like when we first started talking about this with the Oregon player tweeting about like I want to play, and I wonder how deep of that. I mean, it's got to be with every athlete. So I think I agree with you that it is definitely helping the Big 12 and softball specifically to have these absolute dogs. But
historic teams for
historic teams. I have a friend that is a huge Arizona softball fan, so I'm excited to talk shit to her.
Yeah, that'd be a fun place to like road trip to sometime. Maybe when I'm living back in Texas. It's a little bit of a long road trip from North Carolina, but
wait, is there any update?
Some breaking news. No,
yeah,
I mean I'm trying within the next year, but I can't do any of the details on it until the end of the year because this is my busiest time of year. No one wants to hear about that, but if you have a small business, you sell stuff, it's Christmas basically already, believe it or not. So
makes sense.
It's busy. So I'm looking at it. So maybe if I'm there next year and we play at Arizona, maybe I'd consider it. That's not that bad. Texas terms, it's probably like a
nice
drive
cruise through New Mexico, you know?
It's not bad. So
casual.
Softball's going to be fun.
Yes.
I'm sure our team's excited about it. It gives them someone else to play. Soccer, Moving on to that, we kind of hinted at it. Also going to bring in some players from there. It's not quite as prestigious as softball, but the talent, we get a ton of talent from west of Lubbock, especially Colorado. So I think this is only going to further help us, because now it's not just, hey, come play for Texas Tech, who we have, like, we've heard the players talk about some of the best facilities in the country overall. I mean, one of the players said the best, so I'm going to trust that she's been around on the recruiting block and seen it. And I think she means overall, as in we have a really good field, but we also have a private facility that you don't see. I think that's where they come from. That is, they don't share it with a men's team. They don't share it with a men's lacrosse team or a women's lacrosse team. Like, it's women's soccer. No one else is in that building. Yeah. It's theirs.
Which is so rare. And I remember when we had that interview, I was thinking about when I used to work at Penn State, and that was like, I think 5 years ago. And they were like going behind the bleachers to like have their team meetings and stuff like that. And it's like,
that's
if y'all don't know, if y'all don't know, it is still a huge problem that is a problem.
It was a problem at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Right before I got to Texas Tech, it was obviously me that changed this. Now, in 2008, I was not there, but I show up in 2009, 10, right? Yeah. 2000, whatever. Math.
Carry the three, yeah.
I was there for my sophomore year in college and on. And I know I was there for the first year of the John Walker Complex for Texas Tech, and these girls were telling horror stories, bless them.
Oh my gosh.
They used to play at the field where the outdoor track is. That used to be the Texas Tech soccer field in the middle, which is very common across the nation. They play at that little field in between the track that a lot of people do. They didn't have locker rooms. They had pop-up little, like, those temporary buildings that they'd have to, like, go in 5 at a time because there wasn't enough of them and change. Half of them just didn't give a shit and would just change on the sidewalk, and that's very common in soccer on the men's and the women's side, where especially the visiting team just changes on the field. There is a visiting team locker at our facilities, but you'll even see visiting team players still do that because they're like, whatever. They're just not used to it. They don't even realize they have a locker room.
Wait, this is made out of actual material?
We have showers.
What? There's a bathroom in here?
We can shower after the game. Like, these things, Texas Tech soccer did not have showers. They didn't have anything. They had to go home, sit on the bus in it all the way back. Like, there's all these things. We have great facilities. So that's going to help us. And also, we can tell people, hey, not only you get to come play in some great facilities now, still even Colorado, you also are going to get to play Colorado at home. You're going to visit Colorado at least once a year now, or every other year, however the schedule shakes out, and play in front of your family and friends. Your family can travel here pretty shortly. When you go to visit Arizona State in Arizona, who we play quite often, we actually play both of them this year. So little previews at Arizona and at Arizona State later in September, I believe. Your family and friends can go visit them. There's a reason we play these teams quite often already. I don't think Utah as much, but Arizona and Arizona State and Colorado are kind of teams that we're familiar with, and that's because that's where we recruit from, and that's where we have a lot of players from. And we get Texas players too, Dallas players, a lot of them, but there's a lot of really great talent in soccer kind of west of Texas. And that's going to help us recruiting and help us get to play them. And there's some good teams. There's not, like, to the soccer level or the softball level of prestige coming over, but there's good teams with really good talent that, produces national team talent and all that stuff that you won't feel bad adding it. The Big-12 conference is getting so much better, and it's already really good. I mean, this year we have the influx of UCF, who's top 25 team, BYU, top 25 team. Coming in, and then the other two, I can't even remember who they are. They're okay. They're joining, but they're not top 25. We're already good, and you add in these, we could start competing with the ACC for the most top 25 teams every year. When you add in these teams, that every once in a while, Arizona State, Arizona will have a good team that'll pop up here or there. Utah, Colorado, they all play soccer. Unlike Colorado does not play softball, but they do play soccer. So. Some stats, like I said, we play Arizona State and Arizona quite often. We've actually played Arizona each of the last 2 years, and we split those. They actually got us at home, and we got them at home, backwards to what you would think it would be. This year, we're back at Arizona, so we'll see how that goes. Their last tournament appearance was in 2019, but they've been competing here. Again, the Pac-12 is really good at soccer. So, like, they
Just
had to beat the Stanfords of the world to even make it out of their tournament. So the ACC and the Pac-12 were kind of it, but now we're still in some of their teams, so we're picking up on that. Arizona hasn't made the tournament since 2014. Colorado made it in 2020. And let's see, Utah hasn't made it since 2019. A fun fact on Utah, their best ever finish in the tournament was 2016, which avid Texas Tech fans might remember. They beat us in the NCAA tournament in 2016 at Utah in the first round on a gut-wrenching
truly the worst
ball that came. It was like an extra time in the 97th minute. For non-soccer fans, there's only 90 minutes in the game, so this was in overtime, I guess, because in soccer there's not extra time because the clock stops, right? So this must have been overtime, like golden ball situation. So they're in the 97th minute, basically, and they send a corner, and a girl knocks it in, game's over. So, and they go on to make the Sweet 16 that year.
Brutal.
Revenge?
I like it.
No one's left from that team, but our coaching staff is.
The story is still there. We will make it.
Tom Stone ain't forgetting that.
We're
gonna
make
Tom
it.
Stone from the one year I was around the guy. He definitely doesn't know who I am, but I remember his energy, and he will be like, "We went up to Utah this one year, gals, and we had him on the ropes, and we lost it at the end." Like that there you go. So there's fun history there. But there are teams that make it to the tournament here or there. I think they're probably excited to join the Big 12 as well. Maybe get away from the Stanfords of the world. But they're not joining weaklings. You got top 10 team in TCU this year. You got BYU, like I talked about, UCF. We're going to get back to where we used to be. We've been a couple of down years, but in the past decade, we've been a commonplace top 25 team. We'll get back to that. So soccer is going to be competitive as well, and I'm excited for it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and again, I think this could be just so helpful with recruiting and seeing some of the talent that's already rising from our program, like with Kylie Barr and going to the U19, U20 camps, like continuing to produce a lot her
If you haven't listened to Kylie's interview, that girl,
dude, she's got so many
competitive
killer stories, and
like her energy
very
off
competitive.
The charts. Go listen to that. I have no doubt that girl will be playing professionally. And who knows when it comes to the national team? You play long enough. There were some girls on it this year that made their World Cup debut in their 30s. So
you got to start there.
She's a professional level player, but she's only a sophomore. Right. So let her do her thing.
Great.
But hey, Stanford. I'm sure Stanford's gonna find a home. But the Big Ten doesn't seem to want them. Yeah. They don't fit. There's the whole academic thing. They think they're better than the Big 12 academically, so they don't seem to want to join us. But maybe they're gonna get over that now because they're left out to dry. But if they really have to start playing Mountain West people, those U.S. women's national team players are not staying there. So if you want to come on over to Lubbock, I doubt that's the first choice. But if you do, it is. Come on over. Great facilities. We just got grass. We got a some of them probably play with Kylie at the training camp.
Yeah, y'all know she's fun. She's a great time.
Come be a vibe.
Yeah.
Why not? Let's take Stanford's team and let's become a training ground for the U.S. women's national team.
We could probably match their food scene, I would argue. So that's another thing, too.
I've never been to Palo Alto, so I can't
You could eat in Lubbock.
That's true. We have learned this from recruits. That's all they do is eat, so that's fair. Might be a little tough on the vegetarians on the team, but if you like steak, you're good.
That's so true. But yeah, that's really exciting. So this is supposed to take place in 2024, or nothing's confirmed yet?
Yeah,
or
everybody will enter in 2024, which is nice. There's not a big buffer. And that, right, as UT and OU are leaving, so good riddance over them. Bye-bye. They're gone, and we got some good ones coming in.
Okay.
And women's basketball quietly just got really competitive in the Big 12.
Quietly is so correct.
Like, people ain't paying attention, and especially in recent years, last year, talking recent, these 4 teams, 3 of them, have been really good in recent years. Arizona State, meh. That's what I have to say about them all sports. I think I'm just a little annoyed with their leadership, who's been dissing the Big 12 all the past week, even though they begrudgingly had to join us. But they're here now. Okay. And their athletes they're not the reason. I don't need to be mad at them, but all their sports are kind of like meh. They're like that in basketball too, so we're going to just get that out of the way. They're going to have their good years, they're going to have their bad years. To be fair, we've been pretty meh recently as well, so we can't say anything. But I would say we made the WNIT, made a little bit of a run. They weren't even in the WNIT last year. But we'll see if the move to the Big 12 helps them with recruiting. They can tap into this Texas. It's kind of the opposite for women's basketball. They can tap into the Texas talent pool now, which is really big in basketball for these four corner schools. So I'm sure their football, I know the football teams in these are thinking the same thing. Oh, we tap into that Texas market now. Women's basketball will be thinking the same thing. But let's just start it off with what happened last year with these three teams. Yep. Utah was a number 2 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. Some people thought that it should be a number 1 seed. And they easily could have made it to the Final Four, but they actually lost a close game to the eventual champion, Angel Reese and LSU. So they got knocked out by them.
Yep.
Tough. Colorado, top 25 team, maybe top 20 team. We actually upset them earlier in the year.
We did.
Already beat them. Let's go.
Yep.
They were one of our bigger wins of the year, but they are a really good senior-driven team. A lot of them came back on their COVID year. This upcoming year still be good again. Made the Sweet 16, and who did they lose to? Oh, just runner-up, Caitlin Clark in Iowa in about a 5-10 point game. So they could have moved on. Both of those two teams just ran into the two teams. Otherwise, they could have been the ones.
They could have been those two teams.
So they're good. And then Arizona had a tough year last year. And then, the last couple years they've made it to the tournament, so we would love that for our team. For them, it's substandard. Yep. They've made it, and they've lost in the second round. They've won their first round game. They can't get to the Sweet 16. But 3 years ago, they almost won a natty.
Good. It's such a good game.
That's the game.
That's the game.
That Arizona almost won a national championship in women's basketball in 2021. They were just there. And then the past 2 years, they've been in the tournament. They haven't fallen off. They just haven't been able to get back to what that was. But, yeah. Women's basketball's getting spicy. Forget OU, Texas. I know they're good basketball programs, but we ain't missing much.
Right.
Y'all.
It's not.
We're bringing it in. And BYU's already here. Stalwart. We already got them in the conference. The other ones still figure it out and build themselves into good teams. But, whew.
What do you, do you think that there is, when this news breaks, do you think our coaches are like, oh shit, I gotta totally change up my whole game strategy, game plan.
Excited.
You know what I mean?
Well, they got a year to worry about game plans.
That's fair.
But I think they're excited about it because everyone wants to play good schools. It helps you get into the tournament, right? Because there is that fear that losing an OU, losing a Texas brings down your strength of schedule. And so it's that much harder to make the NCAA tournament if you lose a couple games.
Gotcha.
This year, our RPI was really held up because we were losing games in the Big 12, but we were playing such good teams.
Dogs, yeah.
But the losses in the RPI and strength of schedule don't hurt you that much because they're good. You lose Texas, you lose OU. You don't lose much now because you bring in Utah, you bring in Colorado, you bring in Arizona. Again, Arizona State's not a bad team. They've just been kind of meddling, but maybe this will spur on their recruiting and they can get back into it as well. But those three schools, add in BYU, like I said, it's already coming in this year. Yeah. People are going to see some good basketball from BYU this year. And I expect these other schools to catch up pretty fast, too, once they get into – they can recruit Big 12 talent now. And UCF's going to become a little power because it's in Florida and a lot of people want to live there. And, it's going to be pretty easy for them to start recruiting now. And they're already really good at soccer. So, they're bringing in the athletes. So, they're bringing in women's basketball players. I think they're pretty decent at basketball, but they're not to that level of the others. So yeah, I'm excited. It's hype. It's good to have new programs in there. It gets tired playing these same teams over and over again. And again, these four corner schools, especially in basketball, you saw how they did the schedule this year. As we get closer and they announce their actual full schedule, we'll break it down more. But they did the pods already, and you saw who's in our pod. And there's some random ones where it's UCF and Cincinnati are in our pod. Which I guess they have to go somewhere, but I would expect we lose those two, and now our pod in the future years is Utah, Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, Texas Tech. Maybe they'll throw Oklahoma State in there with us. That would make sense.
Wow. Yeah.
And that would that'd be a pod right there. But Oklahoma State could also move up with Kansas State, and all that. So we'll see how that goes. But I would assume we're the closest one to those four corner. So then we're the fifth, and that we're a little 5-team pod.
I'm here for
We're
it.
in a top 5 team pod right there.
I'm here for it.
But, hey, iron sharpens iron, right?
That's right. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about when I was a competitor. It's like, I always want to play those teams that are trash and let me dunk on them. But thinking big picture, thank you, Shelby.
I want to play the good ones.
I know.
Cool.
Like, let's win against the good ones.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Even one of the hardest things to do in sports is to get up for games where everyone expects you to win. It's tough. That's fun. But it's tough mentally, especially for younger players. And so I don't think you have to worry about that. Every game's going to be like a ranked opponent, probably. Yep. It's going to be fun. And we beat Colorado last year, who's a really good team. I don't know how they'll be when they enter the Big-12 because they're going to be good again this year. But a lot of them are now super seniors. But that coach is good at recruiting. We stole one of the players.
Thanks for Jada.
They saw as her future. But she came over to Texas Tech, so they're going to have to replace her. But I'm sure they'll bring it in. So this is really just Jada Wynn's fault. All these teams are like, Jada left.
So we got to go.
We need to go to wherever she's going. And
thanks, Jada.
The Jada Wynn revenge game is going to be on whenever they come in. I'm sure she's hyped. And I'm sure Ashley Chevalier is hyped. That will be her senior year. She's from California.
She's going to
ball out.
We
don't have any California schools, but Arizona's right there.
Close.
So when
Close
we
enough.
travel there, her family can come over and watch easier. Like there's going to be some players on our team, just like there is for soccer and probably softball, that are excited about this movement.
Yeah, I'm like, if we needed any more reason to be excited about all of our sports, especially on the women's side, like what we talked about earlier, a lot of the focus is on football and whatever.
They're bringing in the money, it's fair. But everybody's talked about that, and we've talked about death, so like we're not going to giving you any information you haven't heard on that.
Yeah, the slowdown is really, really exciting, and you get the tickets. I mean, like you gotta wait some time, but when that time comes around,
go ahead and get your season tickets this year because they
see the warm up.
$80. Hello,
I know, dude.
women's basketball put them on sale for $80 the other day.
And there's not
in the future, if nothing else, because they're going to be fun this year. Best team they've had in a long time, y'all.
And then when they ball out this year, they'll call you. Yeah.
Have you seen those highlights of Bird Martin? She is absolutely trashing people on the AAU circuit right now. Like just out there, step back threes.
Thanks, Bird.
I need signing day to get here now. Meow. Can you sign the paper? Because people are knocking on her door. She's shooting up the rankings. We already got her commitment, but girl, get on campus. Hurry. Now. And she'll be here next year. We're not losing much. It's just going to keep getting better. There's little Lubbock gal, #1 in the country, just Aaliyah Chavez, that maybe in the future. We've talked about Avery Jelmstead that's in that conversation. I think she's considering us pretty heavily, but we'll have to fight off the OU schools. Heck, everybody in the country's coming after her. So we're in on some really good people in the 2025 class, and we already have Berg for 24. Listen.
Truly.
Don't sleep on them. Get them now so you're not fighting off people in the future years.
I'm saying.
Or fighting off people in December once you start realizing fun basketball ahead for you.
That's what's like.
Krista Gurley plays fun basketball.
She
finally has all the pieces to do it for a full game.
For her team, and we've talked about it so much, but this next season is going to be so much fun, and knowing that like we're building into something bigger like this is even more opportunity for them to really show out.
I can't wait to talk more basketball. I'm trying to
you do.
I love
I know,
but I'm like it's soccer and volleyball's time, so I'm trying not to like step on their toes. But I could talk. I'm so hyped about this team. We'll break them down. If you're not, y'all, they're gonna be fun, and you can see all this stuff coming out from the coaches. They're not just blowing smoke. Like they weren't putting out these subtle hints like they were last year, like they were this year. I mean, they were saying last year, this is going to be a good team. We're going to make the tournament, and they would have if JoJo didn't get hurt, to be fair. They had plans of it. Very senior-driven team, very savvy team. All their tweets this year are like, this is going to be a fun team. They keep talking about the talent. So, anyway, we'll talk more about them in the future. But also in the future, they got some good opponents coming, so be hyped.
Correct. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I think this will be very interesting to see it unfold. And I feel like next time we record, we're going to have some other level of information that I am not aware of. I need to find a way to
potentially have more schools joining, but I don't know what our commissioner is going to do. They're talking about
Stanford,
Oregon State, and Washington State. I feel bad for them. They're like the lesser, and I don't mean that negatively.
I know.
It's the same way. It's the same way we're the lesser team to UT in the state of Texas. they're the lesser of their state schools that have gotten Big Ten invites, and from a market standpoint, that's why I'm kind of surprised we took Utah, because they're in the same market as BYU, but I think it was a geographic thing that helped them. Those up there, the only thing that's going to save them is the TV markets want someone on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And so it's like Stanford, I think we want Stanford, obviously, but I don't know if they're going to go independent or just hang out and do their thing.
Yeah.
But if we can't get them, there is talk about Oregon State and San Diego State, who's not even a Pac-12 team.
Nice.
Just because you get that San Diego market, who's also pretty good at women's soccer, I think. There's like Santa Clara and all them in that
whole San Diego area is
that are
dope.
actually pretty good at soccer. They have a lot of national team players too, so
very impressive. Yeah.
Why not tap into that?
All right. Well, cool. I can't wait to hear the next evolution of
this time next
whatever
week we
this
might
is.
have to talk about San Diego State and Oregon State. I don't know.
Cool. I love it.
I prefer UConn. Give me Gino Auriemma against Krista Gerlich in Lubbock now. Give it to me. But
You just want to see Paige.
They suck at all their other sports, so that's the problem. Paige won't be here then.
I keep forgetting it.
She might hang
I feel
around.
like
She might
with
hang
her
around.
injury and COVID.
She would have eligibility. She could be here. She
She
probably
can
will
go.
because of NIL. You don't. Why go to the WNBA now?
Well,
She can get paid
she'll
more
be
here.
drafted for.
She could be drafted this year, but it's like if she. It's same thing. Caitlin Clark could. This is a whole other conversation, but do they? Angel Reese could. Angel Reese has already said she ain't leaving.
I know.
They're going to stay for their full 5 years and get paid because they get
That's
paid
right.
more in college than they do
in the W.
until the WNBA gets their shit figured out and pays higher salaries. They're not going to get these players right away. So Paige could be here, but her injury history, she might be like, I better go get as many years pro as I can before I'm done.
That's true.
Her
That's
knees,
true.
bless her, aren't going to give her a long career, I fear. But
Wow.
yeah, so I don't know, but there'll be
Okay.
another Paige. It's UConn. There'll be
'Kay.
another. Hopefully it's
Good
not
to know.
our Ilya Chavez is connected to them. Can you
Dude,
actually
that's
take it back? We don't want
say it.
UConn. We don't want to give her a reason to go to UConn and be able to
Yeah.
play in Lubbock. Take it back. Stay up there. So